Good morning. I think it's been a while since we said good morning in a bargaining session. It's kind of exciting.
Yeah, good morning. Absolutely.
We have a couple new people than we had Monday, so
Okay.
let's do introductions again.
Sure.
Good morning, Stacy Donahue from J.D. Floyd.
Dana Blazek, bargaining chair, J.D. Floyd.
Lisa Mysterio, HCTA president.
Kim Hudson, Service Unit Director, Florida Education Association.
Jim Enzes, ESC.
Angelina Lamantia, Financial Analyst.
Megan Schlechter, Director of Federal Programs.
Alexis Brown, Director of Human Resources.
Barbara Kidder, Assistant Superintendent of Support and Business Operations.
Matt Goldrick, Director of Labor Relations and Professional Standards.
Steve Cronelli, Executive Director, Support Operations.
Lisa Braithwaite, Principal of Explorer K-8.
So if it's okay with you, we have like 3 things we'd like to share. I think I'd start off with the easiest thing, the re-engagement educator. We made those changes for you to look at.
Thanks.
Just to refresh this, this gives the district the opportunity to collect some FTE for some students that we weren't originally. It gives the students the opportunity to keep progressing for eventual return, and gives the teachers that are involved in that support a little something for their efforts. And it's funded with a grant. And the grant is only for that purpose.
That's correct.
I'm just looking at my notes from the last one. I see that there were changes. I'm just making sure that. Anyone have questions about? Yeah, I think we're good. Today's the 15th.
Yeah. Oh, you're good, Stacy. This was signed copies.
You can get up, I think I gotta get it.
It would be good stuff for like Dr. Tuesday. The next thing, I thought it'd be worth, I just had this in color, the thing we talked about a few times, the allocations from TSIA year over year.
Yeah, now you know. You look cute. I like your outfit.
Thanks.
So the first year started, oh, wait, 2 seconds. Absolutely. So I think you'll see the way it was set up. The first year, obviously, there's just one allocation. And then each year, you'll see that allocation plus the growth allocation come back for that allocation. And what the pink represents on the right-hand side is the money the district put in above and beyond the funds from the state, from the general fund, as new money towards teacher salaries. And I guess the other thing to keep in mind is that, like, for example, just to build the budget this year, we had to add that 13 million in to represent that money that was given in addition. But that's actually compounded because each, like, the 486,000 has counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. And the 2 million has counted, you know, it's like a factorial exercise or something. And that's when we described the idea that there'd be no actual maintenance allocation money left over. This is why.
So you're saying whatever maintenance could be left over is absorbed because of the extra 13 million?
Right. Because of, well, and remember, it's compounded. It's actually more than 13 million. That just represents 1 year's, that just represents this year's, you know, put in order to make it work, what we committed to over the last 5 years. So each year that commitment pot gets bigger that we have to put back in.
How is that reflected in the spending line item that reflects instructional staff salaries?
You got any idea? Yeah, I'd have to get back to you on that.
Well, okay, so last year we spent a lot of time talking about how there was 93 million budgeted in that line item. We spent 96 million in the previous fiscal year, 23-24. And then coming into 25-26, what was budgeted, again, was 93 million, not 96 million. So is some of the budgeting practice also reflecting that number being showing in that way, I guess is what I'm asking. Like,
Yeah.
that line item alone, which is
Not to
supposed to
my
reflect,
knowledge.
you know, spending on instructional staff salaries. How would we see this reflected in that line item?
Not to my knowledge, and it's not a dollar for dollar because, and I don't want to misspeak, but I believe when the budget is opened, it's never at 100%. So it's a percentage of those positions that it's funded at with a vacancy rate for the rest. So it's not a dollar for dollar. So I don't know that you would be able to tie back into that directly, if that makes any sense. And I could probably have Joyce explain that a little bit better, but that's my understanding of it.
And in some ways, we're talking about it just to make sure that because the state's giving us this language,
Yes.
there isn't some pot of money over here that might be available or something. Because I think our actual budget practice is to really, to build off the budget we spent on teachers based on the current people. And it's more based on that. And this is a separate report where we're speaking the state language back to the state, but I think our overall budgeting is probably more inclusive of all the issues that we have to budget for, if that makes some sense.
Yeah, it does. I guess the reason I was asking that is because, you know, if the budgeting doesn't reflect a dollar for dollar amount, but this is a dollar, I mean, what you just explained was a dollar for dollar comparison, compounded.
Yep.
So I just, you know, I think it's helpful for everybody to have an understanding on with the common language, right?
Yeah.
If we're going to speak dollar for dollar, then we should speak dollar for, but if we can't do that, then, you know, that's one of the reasons why we were left with,
Question.
this is what we left, this is what we spent last year, but we didn't budget that to roll forward because.
And it's my understanding that Joyce has been developing not necessarily a new way, but a more transparent way. So I think that going forward, it will be closer to that dollar for dollar amount, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But I know she's been working hard on that, so.
Understood.
Okay. Any other questions on that before I?
Jen, you're so far away. Call over. This is assigned seat. Yeah, right, exactly. Everybody has the same spot every single time.
So this is our response to your proposal. It starts off much the same because we have that, the money from the state and is designed and categorized to be for the 10-year classroom teachers and represents that 1.6 million. I think you guys had 1.3, but that did not include the fringe. You had the fringe down below.
Yes.
So really, we're talking the same thing there, obviously, right? And our goal is to basically take that number and divide it by the number of people that we find qualify the day that we have to determine that. So we'll give them the amount. We think it's going to be roughly around $2,000, but if it's $2,083 on, you know, whatever day we do it, that's what it will be. And then to take the $809,000 for all remaining staff, and that works out to be a $550 increase in their base salary. Now, the final piece of it is, of course, including that $800,000 is going to take care of the highly effective at 100 and the effective at 50, which is on that second page. You know, we're very open to you guys. In the past, we've done some tiering. If you guys wanted to take that same money and tier it somehow based on years of experience for non-classroom staff and classroom staff under 10 years, you know, we thought that you may do that. The other thing I wanted to mention is that, you know, this year, when we aren't just rolling out a new ban for millage, and so I think there's like an extra 100,000 projected than last year with millage. So whether you take the extra 100,000 and do something with it, or whether you take the whole thing and reconfigure it for this coming year, you know, you have that 59%, 59.125 of the 50%. If you wanted to do something different this year, because you have this money coming in from the state for 10-year classroom teachers. So if you somehow reallocated the millage money, maybe that would help equalize things for you for this year. Because really, I think you guys did a really good job using that millage money to make up for teacher compression that happened originally from this situation. And so if we got the money coming in for the 10-year classroom teachers, we've got the TSI money to do that, and so we reallocate the TSI, millage money, and we would, you know, be open to that, reallocating that into different bands or however you want to do it, so that your 10-year non-classroom people could somehow benefit from that. And that, does that make sense? I mean, I think there's some way to play with that.
It does, but I'm not sure how we would feel about reconfiguring, because then you're essentially suggesting pay cuts for people if you adjust the bands.
Mm-hmm.
So if we adjusted bands and lowered the portion for anybody at, you know, the 21 plus or the, you know, anybody above 10 years, if we adjusted those bands, then those folks are taking pay cuts, right? Because that's factored into their salary. It's a salary supplement.
Yeah.
So it would literally result in them receiving less, because there really wasn't a huge growth in the millage bands. I mean, we didn't get the chart that showed the difference from one year to the next, and I do have last year's chart to be able to compare.
Yeah.
We just didn't have a big turnaround time.
Yeah.
In between sessions. So, but I don't think the amount wasn't like, oh, it's $500 more in this band this year.
Right.
So that $500 represents, something that someone would be getting more that they wouldn't miss, or they wouldn't be going backwards if we decided to reallocate or redistribute that. I
Right.
didn't see huge differences in the bands where it would be hundreds of dollars more this year compared to last year. So it would be really hard for us to, look at something that literally would represent a pay cut for others to
Right.
come.
No, absolutely. No, I was thinking more like freezing some in this category and using a little extra to bump up something else.
So when you say the little extra, you're talking about the minimal growth in each band. The $100,000 is already in that chart as presented, as
Correct.
as proposed.
Correct.
Rolling forward into next year.
Yeah.
Okay. So the idea that you're suggesting is keeping the bands as they were at the amount from last year, and then the overall amount difference is approximately $100,000.
Yes.
But we won't really know that. I guess that's the other hesitation with that portion of the funds, because whether
Well-
that's collected or not, or what,
Well, no, that's projected. So we're going to, like, if we hadn't had the agreement to discuss it before we give the new bands, we would be paying that out based on projections.
Okay.
And then in 27, you get mill two if for some reason we collected a lot more, right?
Okay.
Because I think what I'm really saying is that if you somehow reduce the tenure classroom teachers a little bit, therefore they wouldn't really get that 2,000 raise, but then you'd have a little bit more, but since you're giving that money to them from the TSIA, other people could get a little bit more.
Are we prepared to do those kinds of calculations? Because that's separating out 664 people that are in that band, or any of those bands,
could
I
be in,
should
like,
say.
5 different bands.
Any of those bands going from 10 years up,
Right.
classroom teachers.
And so, some of them are included in the 9 to 11, because we have a 9 to 11, 12 to 15, 16 to 18.
And actually, not all of them would be in your top bands, because it's, in that case, that's being based on
True.
Florida experience versus,
So we could have people that are in the 3 to 5 band.
yep. Yeah. It
So
was just a
withholding-
thought.
Yeah, withholding the increase in that band is probably not going to yield up, very much. Go ahead.
All right, that's fine. All right, so sorry, I have a couple questions. Looking at the bottom half, so just starting where it says base salary increase for other returning, what's your count of staff to get to that 550? How many people did you use to calculate that?
I think it's 881 or something like that.
It should be closer to 681.
Okay, so hold on. So, okay, so now I do have to go back to the top half.
I'm sorry. No.
No,
it's
okay, yeah.
870.
Okay, so that's 870 people. So if we take fringe out of that, you want to take the 23% fringe off the 809?
That's with fringe already backed out.
The 809
Yep.
is full, okay.
Yeah. And then they would have like employee tax, whatever their taxes are on it.
Right, so if you take 809.45 and divide it by 870 people, it's $929. So where's 550 coming from? And why should the people who are taking that smaller portion of money pay for the people who are already getting more money to get their highly effective $100?
No, I understand. So
Yeah.
it's 809.45 is the original allocation.
Mm-hmm.
When you back out fringe, it's 660.
Okay, that's what I was
Then when you back out the highly effective, it's 507. And then when you divide that by the 870, it's really closer to like, again, that's why it's an estimated, it's really closer to like 589, depending on how many people are in the unit
Mm-hmm.
at that moment.
I know you guys had insurance committee last week. What's the raise in that looking like?
The raise at the meeting was
Premiums.
23% on fully insured. So we're going to have another meeting on August 5th where we'll be looking at what's the best Blue Cross can do for fully insured, because they could come back with a slightly lower, but it's probably not going to, we had 6% last year. I don't think we're going to go from 23 to 6. But if we go self-insured, we'll be able to fund it at a smaller increase because of things like not having to pay taxes. And the funding formula is based on a different set of months of claims experience. It's based on immature claims. So the current, the numbers aren't exact, but by August 5th, we should have a much better idea. It should be less to go self-funded. But because our claims experience was 107%, in other words, over the last 12 months, and that goes like from May of 2025 back to May of 2026 to June of 2025, we were spending at 107%. So for every dollar we gave Blue Cross Blue Shield, they're saying they spent $1.07. So that's going to suggest that we may need some more funding in our plan.
Because $550 is $21 a paycheck. Last year it was $18. So we're not really doing much better. And then if there's a 23% increase in my premium at my PPO plan, that's $15 extra a paycheck. So my raise would be $6 a paycheck, working in this district for 20 years. Interesting.
I think when we created our proposal, we used the idea that we had discussed all along, was that the 809,000 would be a starting point. And so I understand that that's all that's reflected here, but in our discussions of that, signing that agreement for the 809,000 being set aside in an additional budget line item, which was significant because it hadn't been in the budget, hadn't been its own line item to address instructional salary increases. What we talked about in all of those conversations is that 809,000 would be a starting point. So that is, I think when you look at our proposal and you compare our proposal to the amounts that had to be additional coming out of the district budget from your sheet here, 2 million, 3 million, 3 million, 4 million. This year, our overall ask in additional funds was somewhere in the realm of 847,000. So yes, more than 70,000 that the district put in last year, but significantly less than the 2 and 3 and 4 million that have been the overall cost of salary increase packages that we've negotiated before. And I think, that was our attempt to be realistic and in the ballpark of, current realities with family empowerment scholarships, vouchers, enrollment concerns, and such. But ultimately, when we are losing about 100 people in the instructional unit, about 100 people a year to various, retirement, resignation, some non-reappointments, when we are losing that many people, part of that equation is they can't afford to continue working in a job and working in a profession that, will require them to need another job to pay their mortgage and pay their bills. So we felt that our initial ask was in the realm of realistic. I know that it didn't stay within the 809, but when you compare that with all of these other years, that the overall cost of our proposals, or what we settled on, and worked together to come to agreement on, was significantly more. That was the rationale and the basis for trying to accomplish something that was more realistic, and also keeping in mind what we keep hearing from teachers working here in this district. Their family budgets are not making a lot of sense right now, and for everything that has changed about the working conditions of this profession, we have to do something that values the commitment that people are making to educate students here in Hernando County.
We support the teachers, and we don't disagree. I don't disagree with anything you just said. And, I think some of these things were based on bringing the fund balance down. Some of them were based on growing as a district, because that's unfortunately some of the way that I think we've afforded to do these things in the past. I think the one thing we can keep in mind is that we meet throughout the year. This is our proposal today because we have we have to figure out how to spend this money by July 30th. Otherwise, we get to spend more fund with impasse and things like that based on the current state legislature. So we've already talked last meeting about the fact that the budgeting process kind of ends in September. This doesn't really coincide or align well with the current ask, the box that you described that we've been put in. So, I mean, one way to look at this is, can you do anything creatively with what's there to equalize it for members better? And if not, can it be viewed as, well, this is where we are today, and then we will meet in the future? Because there have been budget cuts made. I mean, there are positions not being filled. There's been efforts, and some of that, we're going to have to see how that finally builds the budget for September, what students enter our school, and the October deadline, which will kind of help indicate what our funding is really going to be. 10-day count, all these things are going to affect additional cuts possibly, and/or some relief that then could be viewed to fix things later in the year.
As far as positions cut, just in reviewing the reappointment lists, that's always difficult to pick out, because you're literally, like, I can compare this year's list to last year's list, but it doesn't always mean the same, because sometimes a different position over here is created with a different title. So which positions are on hold and haven't been cut, or have, at least at this point, are being realized as a savings because they're not being filled?
Basically, every time a position is vacated, it's looked at, and 9 times out of 10, it is not refilled. We've certainly done that with instructional positions, non-instructional positions, administrative positions, PTS positions. So while, as we spoke about in every meeting prior, we are trying to preserve the livelihood of everyone, we recognize that there have to be cuts in all areas.
Sorry, Alexis, can I just have you repeat a couple of numbers, because I was trying to write as fast as I can. So when we went from the 809,045, you said less fringe, it was 660?
Yes,
Okay, and then after the highly effective,
it's 507,368.
thank you. I missed that last one.
Okay.
And the highly effective is for everyone in the instructional unit, or just the folks left out of the TSIA?
It's for everyone in the instructional unit.
About how many would you say, I don't know if this would be a number that you would have on hand, how often is it the 100 over the 50?
It's about 900 to 600.
Our understanding was the TSIA allocation this year did not include the performance pay part of it.
That is correct, and that's why we're taking it out of the 809,000.
Right.
No, it is. You do not have to, it states that in statute, that performance pay does not have to be used if TSIA funds.
Right. TSIA is not covering anything for performance pay. You're 100%, but the actual statute that outlines what performance pay is still in effect.
If you
So-
look at that statute, I was just at the table with Citrus, it does not.
Okay, we can review it again.
Yeah,
So
it's-
then, in essence, if we can confirm that, then that 153 would go back into that number.
I think you need to double check that because, yeah.
Yeah, because our understanding was it wasn't part of the TSIA,
We checked
but
with
that we'd still have
Beason
to,
and he
we'd
confirmed.
still
so.
eventually have to figure out how to do it. So, but we certainly can look into that, because we are simply trying to follow a statute there, and it's not necessarily something that
Was it
we're
struck
focused
out?
on.
Because I didn't see that. Was that statute language struck out and revised?
What would the process be for confirming years of experience? I know you said last time contact anyone,
So-
but
Well,
people
and
have a
we've
hard time
received
getting.
plenty of calls so far, I can say, so it's working. And basically what that process looks like, again, I don't want to deter anyone from confirming their years of experience, but if you've been here for 15 and you've been in the same position, we're probably copacetic. So it would primarily be folks that were hired. Actually, we can use that chart that shows the years of implementation for TSIA, which of course I can't find right now.
It started in 2020, it looks like.
So I would say 2020 to the 2021, 21, 22, 22, 23, 20, any in this chart area, so pretty much from 2020 on, if you have a concern that you did not bring in your experience because we had either a collapsed or not as robust a step schedule at that time, just go ahead and reach out. We've advised everyone to reach out to Brittany Beltran, Dawn Poppy, Dawn Leo, myself. I remember how to do it. I can look it up and kind of backtrack into there. So, and we'll help just to confirm. And it is a little bit of a process if for some reason they did not bring it in, because now we have to wait for the other county to send that form back. So we want to start that process as soon as possible. But I mean, if you've been here prior to the implementation of the TSIA allocation, then that wouldn't have been in effect because we weren't in a collapse status at that point.
Additionally, if you look at your millage band on any old pay stub and you're year 10 or above,
That's a really good indicator
good too.
because then you don't even need to go any further.
look
Yes.
that up because
Yes.
the 10 years plus is what.
Yes. Now, if you came in from another county and so your millage doesn't have that, that's somebody that I would say you're going to want to check.
Right. Okay.
Or if they had any years out of public school, and we want to make sure.
In order to do what's being proposed for the classroom teachers with the funds that have the time-sensitive deadline, in order to accomplish that, nothing in the 809 is being impacted. It is simply that allocation from the state that is being spent to accomplish the part that we have our strict timeline on, correct?
Correct. Yes.
And you said you'd know more about insurance when? I'm sorry, August?
August 5th is a meeting, So-
What would the cost be to, if we went self-insured, what would that cost people on the front end? Would there be a cost associated with that on the front end? I don't know anything about this, that's why I'm asking.
I'll have a lot more information on August 5th, but yes, it will be similar because we're still going to have a rate for the employees that will be viewed for most employees, for any person. They're going to say, what was my rate last year? What is it now? And so they'll see that as an increase or a decrease. I mean, one thing we've been very successful on is people that take insurance only have paid less each year.
Individual only.
Yeah, yeah. And so I know we always have the family, and trust me, I'm a family plan kind of guy. I get it. But I think that we've done very well by the employee in terms of keeping that premium cost the same for several years now, because the board's picked up that extra portion each year for the last 4 years.
I think the difference with that is it's unfortunate that the board has had to pick up that increase, right?
Yep.
For all of us.
Yep.
Because that money's been going to the insurance company. And they have been establishing, this is how much we
Right.
need to increase your rate, right? Not everybody uses the insurance, true.
Not everyone's raises all that money that comes out for everybody. That money could have been used elsewhere.
Right, so it certainly is absolutely appreciated, and it has value
Yeah.
that those
Yeah.
increases have been picked up. But I think a big part of that has to do with how insurance companies operate too, because they're still making a profit.
Right, which is
So
why.
if they accepted a 3% increase last year, they would have still made a profit. But
Right.
they didn't accept a 3% increase, they wanted 6.
Right.
So I think that's the difficult part. It's not necessarily our fault, your fault. I mean, that's the way insurance companies operate. But I do think that, they're wanting to make a higher profit off of people who are dealing with really serious health concerns. It's disgusting, honestly. And, it is one of the things that we value having the individual insurance covered at the level that it is right now. That is important and it is valuable. But at the same time, I do think there's something wrong in that process that I'm truly hoping that if we are seeking another option, that it would give us a little bit more of a flexibility in looking at exactly where the money is going, where the increases are going.
If we go self-insured this year, we're going to, over time, start to have a much better idea of where that money's going and make better decisions. And other districts that are doing it are building a health savings account, and that is increasing. So I don't know if it's going to be the perfect fix this year to reduce insurance costs for everyone, but I think long-term, it will definitely save money for every individual as well as the district, which will then create money. Like Charlotte County has gone from having negative $2 million up to $14 million over 5 years. And if we can have that same kind of growth by doing what they tell us to do and funding the plan like they tell us to fund it, it should mean good things for the future of Hernando County.
I think the other big question is, I know that this isn't really insurance committee, but not everybody tunes into the insurance committee. So the idea that will plans change significantly? Are we looking at that at the moment?
At this year, no. Our goal is to move from fully insured to self-insured and have it feel like you're going to still have your same number. You're going to still, like if you had any pre-authorizations, they're still going to be there. There's not going to be any changes in the prescription formulary. So people should really feel like they move. And then in year 2, we really start to look when we have real data, because we don't have all the data. Blue Cross Blue Shield owns our data. Next year, for 2027, we'll start owning our data and really know it. We'll be able to look at the formularies and really bargain our prescription better, and that can save us money. And if you were at the insurance committee, what you would have heard is that our high-cost patients went from like 29 up to like 50, And those extra 20 people really are driving the cost of the increase this year if we stayed fully insured. And so the longer we move to self-insured and get into fleet, we can start to reduce our risk by risk sharing. And so that levels the playing field for us so those 20 people don't hurt us as much anymore.
So we currently don't have a plan that's sort of like a reinsurance type of thing, which is one of the things that was discussed as part of the self-insured, that when you get into a situation with very high claims and specific individuals dealing with life-threatening health challenges,
Yep.
Which inevitably are high-cost claims, that there is some kind of reinsurance or something that helps.
Yes, fully insured plans has that built in, and they talk to us in terms of pooling points. So some of that is pulled out in terms of how it affects our overall claims and how it affects our overall increase, but not as much as when we're self-insured. There's still some ways they draw it back and hold us accountable, like an auto policy would for an accident. You know what I mean? The insurance company always wins. So
Yeah.
I think when we're funding our own plan, we have the ability to manage it better.
Is it okay if we just do a brief caucus? I know we have another date scheduled.
Yep.
So we can, talk about what we think our next steps are going to be, and then we'll come back today
Yep.
so it won't be a super long one, but just so we can all.
Are you comfortable staying here? Because I saved that room, but I noticed people are in it. I also can get you in a different room.
As long as it's not recording, we're good.
Yeah, I'll make sure.
And Alexa, sorry, real quick, what's fringe number?
This year it is 22.24, so 1.2244. That's what you multiply the number by.
Say that again, multiply by what?
The easiest way to do it is multiply by 1.2244.
Okay, thank you. All right, I was using a much bigger number, so that,
It was 1.2289 something, so it's a little bit less this year.
okay, thank you.
Yay.
Here we are again.
Hi there. Hi there. So the language that we were talking about pay for performance is in 5003 E. I guess the E means it's not posted yet to like the site, the statute site or whatever, because this is new language, but it's in section 8. And I could bore everyone and read it, but I'm not going to do that, so I'll let you guys read it. But that's where that language is found.
So statute 5003. Okay.
Make sure you
Okay.
have the E.
We'll look for that. So, and the other section was struck out
It wasn't struck out. It just basically says notwithstanding what
for
was in the-
TSIA.
Yeah, for what was in the past.
Yes.
We're not going to hold people accountable for that for this year.
Okay. We'll look at it.
26,
Perfect.
27. So that's where I found it. That was the information that we
In
were
our
shared.
discussion, we were thinking it may have a part to do with the timeline they're imposing, right? How could you pay for performance out of TSIA because
And-
we don't have finalized evaluations until
And that's what and that's what my understanding
That's
was, that
exactly
it
what
cannot
caused it.
come out of
Yeah.
TSIA, but that language isn't removed.
Right.
So we have to be careful, because if we're using funds outside of TSIA, are we still obligated? That's where we needed clarification on, and we're going to seek that as well.
Yeah, yeah. The other thing is I've been at the table with other counties, and their fringe that they're using is 21.65.
I can send you our fringe chart.
Okay, that'd be
This way you have a breakdown, because there's actually 2 different categories. There's a drop category, there's a regular category, but we just updated that, and I can share that with you.
okay, perfect. And then could you also tell us, and you can share it later, the charter share of Yes,
Yeah, we have that broken down, so I can send that to you.
perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so can we have a digital copy of this so
Yes.
that we could work from that with a response? And I also thought it might be easiest to just ask, you've rolled up the roster that you shared with us in June, so rather than us going in and tweaking years, like one at a, I don't really want to tweak it, I want to just
See what you're
like,
working
have you send it to us already rolled so that we don't have any manual error
Yep.
with that?
Yes, and like we said, it will continue to fluctuate slightly in case someone leaves or brings in their years of experience, but we can definitely give you the rolled up version.
Thank you. Can we also have an updated outline? I'm not really sure if that's the right, it's like the report of the fund balance that it's usually shared. I realize that it's not the July version. It's probably the most recently updated one at the end of, last year, because you're preparing a budget for this year. But where exactly
If we
fund
have-
balance looks,
Yep.
And the other question that came up was regarding, we have a lot of providers in our unit that bill for Medicaid, so is there a report that shows Medicaid funds coming into the district and then what we use Medicaid funds?
I can check into that.
Use a Cropley.
Okay, and just to confirm, because they've been at all different times,
They really have.
our session on Wednesday next week is at 1 o'clock, beginning at 1 p.m.
I have no service here, so I can't help.
Because I know they moved the Title I training up from 9 to 1 to 8 to 12. I don't know if that was so they could get this.
That is correct. That is why. Yep.
Thanks, now I gotta get it. Oh, good to know.
Yep, 1 o'clock.
Okay. Very good. All right.
Anything
Okay.
else? Good.
Thank you guys very much.
We'll see you next week.
Have a good rest of the week.
You too.